For my face, I really don't care about. I don't have thick hair, so I use an electric razor for my face, and I don't shave anywhere else.
We are live now, by the way.
No, we're not. Are you kidding me?
Here we are. No, I'm
Oh
not
my
kidding
God.
you. So we were talking about safety razors.
We were
So
talking
this
about
is an
safety
important
razors.
topic. This is Cal's passion, Mr. Cool Man.
Yeah, Cal, I
Kim
don't
Jong Cool.
shave my arms or my legs. So, what do you use?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. No, I know a stupid amount about like safety razors, just because I was really trying to what do you call that when people try to really optimize some kind of area of their life. Um, I was trying to get away from cartridge razors because they just charge you a stupid amount for the
They do.
cartridges. And and like I bought into a bunch of propaganda that was like, this single blade razor is gonna like be so much better than a cartridge razor. And it turns out it takes longer to use a single blade razor. Like the cartridge razors are there for a reason. Some people they give them like ingrown hairs, but I never got that from a cartridge razor. But I still switched over to safety razors just because after a certain point, after learning so much about them, they just became aesthetically and functionally interesting to me as like a topic of study. And
Disclaimer
but
here,
I don't
we
really
don't know.
own.
Sorry, I was just going to give the
Don't know.
disclaimer. We don't know if Federici supports safety razors or not. So we should
No, we
clear up
don't.
that before we
Disclaimer.
get into this. Yeah.
But if he doesn't,
Also,
then
the
he
Trinity
should.
doesn't support the Trinity or things like that. Cal got me into safety razors now. I own one. Just
So
one.
what's the deal? Why?
It's
Well,
nice.
I mean,
It's a good way to look
if
down on
you're
other
smart
people.
about it, yeah, if you're smart about it, it's an excellent opportunity to look down your nose on other people. Well, I guess the good thing about them is they're better for the environment because
Okay.
it's better to throw away metal than plastic. They're also cheaper. The blades are only like 10 cents. It's the way they used to shave, back in the day, where you would find like people would leave those safety razor blades in the walls.
Yeah.
Don't you notice that weird stuff like that?
Yeah.
And they're the kind of blades that you see people cutting cocaine with in the movies. Those kind of blades. So it's kind of retro. But if you're smart about it, you save a bunch of money by doing that, basically. But if you're dumb about it, like me, and just buy tons of razors just to try them and just really optimize, like now the best safety razor, then you freaking waste a bunch of money. But then you can spend money on brushes and soaps and stuff that's actually fun to use.
It's fun to use. I
Is it
haven't gotten
actually
into
safe?
all the different
Is it
soaps
safer?
yet.
It's not really less safe. I just never cut myself shaving like with anything, so I don't really. To me, I don't know about safety. I mean, that really cartridge razors I think are easier and safer than safety razors. Safety razors are just called safety razors because they're safer than straight razors
Right.
because they have a safety bar. But that doesn't mean they're intrinsically safe. But it's cool when I mean, well, first of all, I mean it's just fundamentally unnatural to get like aerosolized shaving cream out of a can. That's just weird. It's a lot more natural and cool to use a brush to create your own lather. And you got the soaps that have all different scents and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see the appeal. It definitely feels a little bit more archaic, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, you get the boar. You can choose a boar hair brush. You can choose a synthetic brush, or you can choose a badger hairbrush, but on principle, I would not use one because I think badgers are like they fall into some cute category of animal where it creates an ethical problem, you know, to use their hair for a shaving
Yeah.
brush.
Yeah.
But those are the most sought after shaving brushes. Those can be $200 to $300
Badger hairbrushes, really?
Question:
for sure, man.
When they take the badger, do they have to kill the badger to get the hair? Or can they just shave the
I
badger?
really think so. My friend was asking why don't they just shave the badger? Duh. And I was like, sadly, I don't think it works like
I don't
that
think that. I
for
don't
some
think it works that
reason.
way
How does it
either.
not work like that? I guess, yeah, it seems like it wouldn't work like that, but I don't know why.
I mean, like it's like they just have like badger farms in China, and you can bet those poor animals are subjected to just unimaginable cruelty.
Yeah.
And they're the kind of things like if you get a boar hair brush, like probably that boar or that pig was used for 80 different purposes in addition to the getting the hair.
Right.
Boars are assholes, they kill people. They're murderers. But
Yeah,
a
oddly enough, both
badger,
of those animals are kind of known for being kind of ornery, you know.
Which
fierce.
one?
When you
Yeah,
badger
well,
someone, we use that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you badger somebody.
Yeah, they're known for being kind of pushy. They are cuter though, you know.
They are cuter.
What is that?
what I'm saying about
noise in the
those
back?
badgers is that like those badgers on those farms, they're pretty much one gets the feeling that they were bred solely for the purpose of growing up and being killed on those farms, and it's just awful to think about that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We have
that's why I don't use the
17
badger
comments
brush.
about straight razors.
We have what?
We do.
17 comments about razors. Yeah.
Have I found my
where?
tribe and my people?
I'll be
We
right
don't.
back.
We get out of any, do we?
Oh,
What?
Gartham is a real one. He uses Primo.
I only see one. Oh no, there is a bunch of comments. It wasn't showing me any of them for a second.
Casey
That's weird.
Clements is also a
What? Phoebus is here.
what's the word that
Someone
I
can
want?
hop on if they want. Oh, so if anyone can't see this, John left, but since it's showing more the picture now, I'll reveal it again. This is me in the top of the ladder, and John's right underneath. So that's our background. Anyway, if anyone can hop on here if they want to, I'll put the link in there again. Yeah, I didn't realize there were that many people. All I saw was Garth's, and then all of a sudden all of them popped up. But yep, you got me into the safety razors, so now I am. So speaking of saving money, are we going to talk about the bidets as well?
Yeah, that's clearly the natural progression from safety razors, but I tell you, I'm still hesitant to take the plunge, so to speak. It does remind me of a comment that I saw on a YouTube video where it was like, so what, shaving is your hobby? Can mine be taking a crap? And then Jason started talking to me about how bidets are superior to toilet paper, and I was like, wait, what if Jason's hobby is?
You made a joke. I think you were making a joke that toilet paper is an unnecessary expense, and I was like, it kind of is. Because having been to India now, you realize that you don't need it. Most people there don't use it, so you don't have to have it. Look, see, here you go. Bidet is great. You get so clean. I agree.
See, that's just I guess I'm too much of a patriotic American to consider felling fewer than 30 trees, per bathroom visit. I mean, like it's almost too environmentally friendly.
Yeah. Well, I finally found an area
issue with
where I can now look down on you for, it's. I don't know if using a bidet is higher class though. I don't think it really is. So maybe I can't.
I don't really know about that.
I'm talking about this one from unnecessary expenses, the cartridge razor. So I brought up how toilet paper is basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. People. If we would have been using bidets, we wouldn't have had that freak out when COVID happened and everybody bought all the toilet paper. That was a strange thing too. That was really strange.
I kind of look back on
that. Casey Clements says his French half forces him to like French things. Maybe we should call him Casey Clement.
Clement.
Yeah. Actually, I'm half French too. That's a
Oh,
little
Phlebas
known
worked at a
secret about
toilet
me.
paper flat. He should hop on here. Tell us all about it.
I honestly would
The
love to
toilet
hear
paper
about what it's
master.
like at a toilet paper factory.
I know. This could be like one of those. What were those old shows they used to put on PBS where they'd go in different
Yeah, I
factories
know.
and just
I
see
know
how
the
stuff
ones
was
that
made?
you're
How it's
talking
made.
about.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get on here. Tell us how it's made. How it's toilet
Wouldn't it be
paper made.
ironic if the toilet paper factory only had bidets?
Yeah. When you go to the bathroom, it's bidets only to cut costs.
yeah.
These gut stories. Oh, so here's, now that we're on the topic of toilet paper, the question for everybody in the comments: over or under? There is a right answer. If you get it wrong, you're banned. Ever.
I don't know who is actually doing under. I don't know why this ever becomes a question.
You know who's doing
Yeah,
under?
I agree with Cal.
I'm gonna out him right now. Christian Golden.
Christian?
Really?
Yeah, I asked him the first interview I did with him. I asked him that question. I think it's still on my
That's
channel.
why.
And
That's why he's not
and I
invited to the stream.
didn't scold him because it was like the first time I talked to him. I should have just went off.
You
though,
should
and been
have.
like, you monster.
That was a holy rebuke. You had the
Yeah.
ethical
I mean-
moral high ground.
In retrospect, it's like it's connecting a lot of dots. I always felt there was something just weird and off about Christian.
Yeah. Now you know the crux.
Yeah, I think you should only be able to do under if you're like in Australia or something. That seems like.
Oh,
because everything's just
actually, I
weird
would
there.
assume that everyone actually, does under in Australia. I think that's just the Coriolis principle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. What's
I don't know what it is.
I'm gonna
either,
pretend.
I think
I'm gonna
about it.
pretend like you know what it is. Okay, all right. You just make up.
Well,
words.
like with the toilets, the toilets, it's apropos. The toilet, swirl when you flush it is in a different whirlpool direction.
I've heard that.
The
Is it true?
whirlpool has a different. It's like counterclockwise instead of clockwise or something.
Yeah, so the toilet paper must be under. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it does.
This is why we do these streams. These live
Kangaroos
streams, so
use bidets though.
of course, Chad kangaroos. Those things are great, man. They're insane looking. Those muscular kangaroos.
Every kangaroo looks like it just did like 6 years in prison or something.
No. You know what we're talking about, John? They're crazy. Oh man. Let's call them Chad kangaroos, right? Isn't that what they're called?
Yeah, I've seen him.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's insane. How does that happen?
It's crazy.
Well, what can you do? Let me see if I can save this image. And this will be our new background.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Save image as KKK. That'll be easy to find.
Uh-oh.
All right, so what are we going to talk about now? Where's this conversation going? Should we talk about the Lord? Who's that?
Cal's having a
The
party.
dog barking.
I know. What is Cal doing?
Yeah, we can talk about the Lord.
So where
We've
have
already
you been
got
reading
the
anything
bidets
in the
out of
Bible?
way.
I've been reading
So you-
Isaiah.
What?
I read through the first 9 chapters of Isaiah in halting Hebrew in an interlinear translation.
The first 9 chapters in Hebrew?
Yeah,
How is it going? Is it just like, I mean, are you able to like kind of get into it, or is it just like kind of really tedious right now?
I'm just sounding out the words, but I don't know what the words mean. But I'm using an interlinear, so I can see the translation right there under each word.
Oh.
How is that?
Yeah,
What's that like?
It takes a long time. I know this from when I did the same thing with Greek. My Greek scanning is pretty good now, but it takes time to kind of set those patterns into your neurons. It's almost like muscle memory, in the sense that it just will. You have to be patient. The process, I gave up guitar because I didn't want to. I got frustrated where my hands weren't moving at the speed of my mind. And this is a similar thing where you have to give it's not going to happen at the rate that you want it. There's something almost involuntary about being able to read. You just have to wait for those patterns to get wired in. But then once they're wired in, like it was 2 years ago that I taught myself to like decode the Greek. But excellent, tasteful background picture choice, Jason. But once I taught myself to do that, I haven't practiced, but I got my Greek interlinear Bible in the mail today. I busted it out, and I scan that much better than I do the Hebrew. It's very natural still, and I haven't practiced it. So, and not that I know either Greek or Hebrew. I'm not trying to give that impression by any means, but I want to. I like to be able to read out the words so that I know how things are pronounced, and if I'm going to look at the original word, I want to know, what it is. I want to, you need that as your foundation.
What are you getting out of that?
Well, just because at some point, I read the Bible like twice as an atheist, and then you keep reading it, and then like you go through different translations, but you're aware that you're not really getting close to the text, right? Because you're just looking at it in translation, and then you're seeing people argue about the original words, and at some point it dawns on you that if you want to get closer to the message that you've kind of been circling around pretty much your whole life, and in different ways to varying degrees, then you got to just gotta start. It doesn't take as much time as you think to at least jump the hurdle of reading and decoding. However, to learn the language, I imagine, would be a lifelong discipline to really master either of those languages.
So, do you think it's more helpful if you just kind of pick a short section and just do it over and over and over again? Like if you're doing Isaiah, do you think it's more helpful to just do like the first 5 chapters over and over and over?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it would be equally helpful to me in the sense that once I finish like the first chapter, I can go right back to the beginning, and it's just as hard to read it as despite the fact that I already read it once, because I don't have such a good memory. But I mean, for me, the appeal is like if I would just go anywhere and just see, well, what is this name in the original language, and then I can look at it. Or like, what does Jude look like in the original language? Like things like that. Just whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can look at anything. Let's practice.
Do you think
I'd still like to learn Hindi, but I just but I wouldn't know how to do that. I don't know if I could get a part of the Mahabharata.
The Mahabharata. My brother learned Hindi when he was in India or whatever that place is called.
Did he learn? So did he learn to speak it or learn to actually read it?
Both. Oh,
okay.
To an extent.
I would love to do that. I mean, the more I look at it too, the more a pretty language I think it is. Just like the actual text of it. But even when I went there, the kids there know how to speak it, but they don't know how to write it or read it. Which is because that's just a whole nother thing. Like I said, they can all speak like 5 different languages, but they're learning like English and things like that. Trey, what up? Hey man, how'd your date go the other night? I never heard back.
He's on mute.
Oh, he's ignoring me.
Yeah, he just came here to kind of stare down superciliously at you.
Cal, do you think that you have a good ability to pick that up because you are a speech pathologist?
Because he's a psychopath.
I know a lot of speech pathologists who aren't particularly good at phonetics. I became a speech pathologist in part because I was always already good at phonetics. Like one day, in high school, I sat down to eat lunch and I just spontaneously realized that several letter pairs in the English alphabet are voiced and voiceless cognates. I didn't know what that term was, but I intuitively figured out that P and B is the same sound, but one is voiced and the other is not. So after I made that discovery, I just looked at dictionaries and used their little phonetic helps to come up with my own little personal system of transcription. So I could already transcribe before I got to college. I wanted to go to law school, and I wanted a major that I could do well in to keep my GPA high for law school. So speech therapy, once I learned that it existed, was the ideal major for my purposes. But I ended up not becoming a lawyer, not wanting to do that, and so I just defaulted to what I had majored in. But does it make it doesn't help you to read, but I mean to whatever extent you're phonetically conscious, yes, it helps. It helps if you have a good memory. I don't. I just really have to practice.
That's interesting.
Yeah, my reading comprehension seems to be really bad unless I'm like reading to myself out loud. But it's even like trying to learn a little bit of Hindi while I was there. It's like the weirdest thing when we went to Honduras down there, I could hardly remember any Spanish. And then when I went to India, it was like it all just started coming back to me. I could remember more Spanish in India than I can like when I'm here for some reason. I don't
That's
know.
funny.
It was really weird. Yeah. But then like all the words I was learning there, I probably forgot half of them now. I remember little baby. That's about it.
Cal, what do you think about the stories? And I don't know if any of them are true, but I'm sure you've probably heard of them of people going into comas. I remember one specifically. There was a guy that went into a coma and came out only speaking Mandarin. Do you know that guy?
Well, I've
What?
heard stories of people like having a stroke or having a brain injury and then like speaking with a foreign accent. But as far as
Or that? What
legit
do you think about that?
speaking, well, the foreign accent syndrome supposedly has like a rational explanation. They don't even, upon closer investigation, truly possess a foreign accent so much as a different accent caused by brain damage. So it, like in that way, it's not really that exciting or interesting. Um, Matthew, get on here.
Yeah, I was about to say
But
that.
as far as verified stories of people like sustaining some kind of injury or undergoing some kind of medical event and then knowing, like just uh, fluently speaking a language they didn't know before, I'm not aware of any such cases. I would assume I would look to demonic possession as a possible explanation for that. If there was one.
Demonic, like a bad demon.
No, I mean like it could. Jason, was there such a thing as a good demon?
Well, what about who's that philosopher that had the daemon?
Oh, the Socrates and
well
his,
the one
because in Greek
if you
the
got
daimon is just the spirit, I think.
yeah if you got a spirit teaching you another language, if that's all it does, wouldn't that be kind of helpful?
What if you had a demon that just told you the future? That's all it did. Wouldn't that be kind of helpful? Wouldn't there be no reason to cast it out
I disagree.
Yeah,
and
we've had
and
movies
and
about
like
it.
cost you your whole livelihood?
We could talk about the Vavitch. That'd be fun. But
Oh, I love
I
that
do
movie.
want to hear about Trey's date if he wants to share it. Let's. You can. Did he freeze up?
Sure. It was good. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. It was good. She came in with moon boots, which I thought was very cool. Like these very like imagine snow boots, but they're like moon boots. She came with those, but it wasn't distracting. It was just like intriguing
Yeah.
for sure. Ate dinner. Everything went good there. And then I guess the interesting part is she was like, I haven't smoked a cigarette in 3 days. And
Ooh.
then I convinced her to smoke a cigarette, which was not my proudest moment. But I was like, it'll be interesting. So that's kind of how it did. And then she gave me the cigarette. And not gonna lie, I took one puff and I coughed for about 5 minutes straight.
Is it your first time you ever smoked? Oh man.
Yeah, no. But I've never smoked more than like an actual cigarette, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's good. You know, you got to get her, you know, back in her vices so you can bring her down a peg. You don't want her running away from you.
There's like a long grace period before you get addicted.
Is there?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm still addicted. Like
I'm saying you can smoke like 20, 30 cigarettes when you're out drinking. Like your first 20 or 30, like they have no power to get you addicted. But
oh.
you know, if you, I don't know at what point you do become addicted. But once you become addicted, then like you're never not addicted after that. You will always crave cigarettes. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. You know, I still like them. I don't know if I crave them. I just want them. You know, they're nice. So, have you seen this
You
girl
want-
again, Trey?
Not yet. I just got back. We'll see. Wait, do you like cigarettes? I don't get it. Like it literally feels like smoke is choking my lungs and fighting with
Oh
me.
man, I love tobacco. It is so good. It's like my favorite thing in that the earth has brought forth. I would, if someone said food or tobacco, I would be like, I just want tobacco. I don't smoke though because I can't.
Because if you
But-
enjoy it, then you have to quit it. That's
Yeah,
how it goes.
That's the rule. God says, if you like this thing, I take it from you.
But,
I'm just.
but what makes it good? Like okay. And what point did it start
Well,
becoming?
first of all,
It's not like the first cigarette tasted good, right?
well, I started with cloves. I don't know why someone gave me cloves, but you don't really smoke very many of those because those they're not. You smoke like one,
not
and
good.
then you're like, you can't really have any more. Well, first of all, number one is it looks cool, so that's the main reason.
Right.
And then after a while, I think after a while, it just like you like. I mean, I like the taste of tobacco, and certain tobacco is better than others. I like Turkish tobacco. Cal was a fan of Virginia, right? Virginia tobacco. I don't know. So they're all different. The smell of it, I don't know. The taste of it, it's a nice product, but don't do it. It's bad. I shouldn't be promoting it on here. It will kill
Yeah,
you.
Marlboro was my favorite brand. You know,
Okay.
I
He's a
was
Marlboro man. Mr. Cool Man.
I was a resident of
Man.
flavor country. Or
So
maybe
since
it's
you're Mr.
flavor
Cool Man,
county. I'm not.
did you smoke menthols?
I never liked menthols.
I didn't either. I never liked them either.
That's what she gave me. Menthol.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like those. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
feel like most people that smoke that I encounter now are a lot of times smoking menthols. I don't know why that is.
Menthols are really strong, right?
They're just got a minty
Tobacco
flavor
is
with-
going to be like the same as non-mentholated, but it just has that that mentholated kick to it. It tastes strong.
Yeah, there's a American Spirit unfiltered. That is the strongest cigarette I have ever had. I literally was crawling on the ground. It was
Yeah, that's actually not good either.
okay, mom.
There needs to be a filter. I'm just saying if one is talking about the experience.
Spirit sissy. No. No, yeah, I get it. But like I've had Camel unfiltered and they're strong, of course. But like when I had the American Spirit unfiltered, I just got them because I couldn't find them anywhere. Then I went out to Oregon, they had them all over the place. I was like, I'm gonna try these, and so I was just standing there smoking like a normal cigarette. Then I went to walk, and I was just like, oh no, like I was so dizzy. I literally was crawling on the ground.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening? Yeah, it was.
American Spirit is like a very kind of dry and spicy cigarette. No, never do cigarettes. I agree. You should never do it. I had to quit, and it was very difficult. And I still am addicted, but I haven't smoked in 5 years.
Yeah. Never, I agree. Never do them. Don't do it. Trey, you're muted. I think it doesn't say you're muted, but I can't hear you.
Nothing.
Oh yeah, you can't hear him.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh, there he goes. Well, at least we get to see these muscles again.
Yeah,
These
thank
veiny
goodness.
muscles. My goodness. How does that happen? What were we talking about before this? Before he got on his date and cigarettes, moon boots.
Boom boots.
We were talking about we'll read in different languages. We're on that too. I'm trying to keep
Yep.
track of these, so we can just keep this conversation all over the place.
Can I go back to Cal
Wait.
reading in multiple languages? But Trey, you go, please.
Go.
I just want to understand this whole cigarettes phenomenon. It's so confusing. I'm just like, so it's the routine. I get that, right? First of all, what are cloves? I don't understand what those are. And like, what is the buzz compared to everything else? And like, doesn't it hurt more than the pleasure?
Hurt more than the what? The plunger?
The pleasure.
Pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure. It did for me because we've discovered this. It's related to this pain I'd get in my face through some nerve damage or whatever. So yeah, it hurt excruciatingly bad. So that's not worth it. That's why I can't do it. Otherwise, I'd probably still be doing it. I just like to, God, no. But the menthols, I don't like the taste of them. Don't really like the smell of them. There's certain cigarettes that smell better than others. Most of them, I mean, to be honest, like most people are going to say they smell bad. Almost everybody is going to say they smell bad after they're smoked because it just smells like an ashtray. Like tobacco has a different smell before you light it. Like it'll smell. Sometimes it'll smell kind of sweet, nutty. Like there's all sorts of different kinds. Cigars are always different. Cigars have a different smell and taste. It's a whole thing, man. That's the thing. Once you open that can of worms, it's like you go into the gas station. You got choices. There's just so many, and then you can just be like, I want to try this one next, and then I want to try this one next, and then you find out this one's not good, and this one's. But yeah, it's the buzz is I guess I would say it maybe just takes the edge off. Like I don't actually like the buzz. Like when it made me dizzy and I was crawling on the ground, I don't like that kind of buzz. And I hate that I had that happen when I'm driving and I'm just like, this doesn't even feel safe when it hits you that hard. When it's like you're stressed and you go have a cigarette, like when I was working at Pizza Hut and I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to smoke while I'm working here. Then I'd go outside and have a break and it's just like, the whole day's there. I don't know. It's like a weird sort of anxiety relief or something for me. I don't know if it is that way for everybody. But I'm not trying to promote it. I don't think it's worth it. It's not worth it at all. But but that would be why I would.
So it's more the mental routine and what it does for you mentally, right?
It does.
Is that why?
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean what's going on is like it's what is it, like some kind of acetylcholine agonist, and it gets into the like there's two kinds of receptors for acetylcholine in your body and brain, and like most of them are muscarinic receptors, but like there's a few nicotinic receptors for acetylcholine in like I want to say the ventral tegmental area of your brain, which is like a reward. It's like in the reward area of your brain, basically. I might have gotten the neurology wrong. And so it's just going to give you a dopamine hit, like right in your, like reptile brain or whatever. And so it's quite literally addictive for that reason, and you don't really know why and can't really explain why. You just have to smoke enough cigarettes for the pattern to be formed, because that's what the dopamine does, is that it solidifies those connections, the neurons that fire together wire together, and soon you associate cigarettes with a positive feeling, and then you crave them. So that's basically what's going on. There's some kind of biochemical reason for it.
Yeah, I would say it's not worth it though. It's definitely not worth it. Like even because once, like Cal said, once you do it for a while, then you just kind of it's you can smoke, like you said, like cigarettes, 20 cigarettes in a night or something, and you might feel kind of a little crappy the next day, but then it's just once you're doing it like constantly every day, you just kind of feel, I don't know how to describe it, like almost pressed down or something. And I would personally, I don't like the trade-off of smelling. Like it really affects your sense of smell.
Mhm.
Like I can go out,
Well,
it dulls like almost all your senses, I think. Like it dulls your sense of taste and your sense of smell. And so when I was doing it in the fall, I was like, man, before I could go out and have a walk in the woods and you can smell the fall leaves and all sorts of stuff, and then you can't, you miss all that when you're just smoking because it dulls all your senses, or at least I couldn't smell it. So I was like, man, that's not a good trade-off. I don't think it's worth it. But
Which I've always thought that was funny because I don't know if you've ever been in a professional kitchen setting, but people that cook in kitchens also chain smoke.
Yeah.
And I think you need to taste the things that you're cooking well.
yeah, I heard a lot of
Never do.
that's kind of a thing. I think smokers are known for oversalting food because they don't.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
But I like salty food. Yup.
Can I ask
Don't
Cal my
do
question
tobacco.
about reading in different
Yeah.
languages?
Do it.
Cal, I was
Thanks,
wondering
Joe.
what you've learned from the Bible since doing that.
It's really nothing I couldn't have learned just by reading an English translation.
Did you learn that
Um,
Jesus is the Christ?
Did you learn that?
yeah, I mean, I didn't learn that from trying to, and again, I don't read other languages. I just decode them or sound them out.
Did you
just
deny your Lord?
What do you learn from it? I mean, if you like languages, then you see how the syntax of Greek and Hebrew are different from English, and that's pretty cool and interesting in its own right. I guess, yeah. Sometimes it becomes kind of relevant for. I mean, it's a necessity for like deeper theological discussions that are based on what the text is saying. But no, I mean it's cool. There's something charming about other languages. Um, so that's pretty much all it is.
Well, I understand the appeal of, especially with scripture, having the original text there side by side with the translation, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Have you found that as you go through, that has given clarity on some things?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, like if you want to know how a name was actually pronounced, because you read like the Old Testament, for example, and it's like this name, like you don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. And first of all, it's a transliteration and a pretty bad one. And second
Right.
of all, you don't even know how that transliteration is supposed to be pronounced. And
Right.
like the guy next to you in Bible study is going to be saying it a different way, and you don't know who's right and who's wrong, and you don't even know on what principled basis one could claim that so and so was right and the other was wrong. It's like there is no right or wrong with something that's that garbled. You don't know what resource to consult, for the authoritative pronunciation of like the King James rendering of some, Hebrew name. So it simplifies things just to be able to look at the Hebrew and be like, okay, that's actually what it says. And same thing with Greek. It's interesting because I don't know. I feel like there's perhaps not as much of a difference. Well, I don't know. It's kind of a decent difference between how like in Greek, like in modern Demotic Greek, it's not Jesus, it's Isus, or Isu,
Right.
and then the Koine would have been, I think, Yesu, and then Hebrew Yeshua or Yeshua. I've yet to see it in the actual Hebrew, but
There you have it.
uh,
It's confirmed. Jesus is Lord in Greek, but not in Hebrew. So Cal has just confirmed.
What does it mean?
Sorry, it's Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. It says on the sign.
I'm trying to remember. In Greek is Kyrie, and in Hebrew it's Adon or like Adonai, like
Yep.
maybe Adon. I'm not sure, but it's that those are the words in Greek and Hebrew.
And you bet you know even quite a bit of Latin too, right?
Not really. Though in Latin it would be what Dominus, Domine, right? I don't really know any of those ancient languages. You know what I'm saying? I don't.
Yeah.
I never studied any of them. I can get by in Spanish. I'm maybe at an intermediate level in Spanish. That's the closest I am to speaking another
What
language.
about Portuguese or French?
No, almost nothing. French. I grew up hearing that language as a child quite a lot because my father is from Quebec and my first stepmother was from France. So I heard French spoken a great deal. But I'm terrible at it, and I speak much more Spanish than I ever did in French.
And what about a Hindi? Did you ever pick up any Hindi with the Hare Krishna
No,
stuff?
and I've never tried. I mean, well, one other thing I can do is like not in the original Devanagari, but in transliteration, I can scan. You heard me read the Bhagavad Gita verses, right? I can scan and parse the Sanskrit verses quite fluently. I know where to place the stress on a syllable, and kind of like.
How am I gonna know whether you're right or wrong? You could just be doing that, Like you're
Because
just
it
talking
sounds
with an
poetic
accent.
and smooth and flowing. That's how you know that I'm right.
Okay.
I've memorized.
How do you say banana?
But I don't claim to know these languages, Jason.
Banana.
But I have. Yeah, banana. That sounds right.
Banana. That's how. Yeah, that's how. It actually makes more sense if I'm thinking about it. Banana. It's like, why wouldn't we just say banana?
That's my son. He's upset about something.
He sounds happy to me.
Yes, all as well.
I didn't know he had a kid. That's pretty sick.
Yeah. Benjamin's great. I met the little guy once.
Benjamin.
Sorry, Benjamin. We're pronouncing things correctly now.
I think Cal would have survived the Tower of Babel with no difficulty. Everyone would have started speaking different languages, and he'd go around and pick stuff up. He would be fine.
He would have been Lord of the tower.
He would have, yeah. He would have been the last one standing.
Yeah, the speech therapist. The top Tower of Babel.
Yeah, God would have to have it again, half all the languages again, just because of this guy. He called Nimrod too.
Nimrod too.
That's good.
Mr. Cool Man, aka Nimrod.
Yeah, it's in the Apocrypha. I'm sure.
I like how I forgot how that transferred over. How Nimrod became an insult. Like how that, like, is Nimrod? You say that now when you're referring to a stupid person, basically, as far as I know. I don't know.
I've never heard that. I know Nincompoop.
What? No, Nimrod was the person who said to set up the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, but if you call someone a Nimrod,
yeah,
that's like, I think that's kind of like calling him a stupid person too. I think there's. I'm gonna Google this.
Yeah, I
with
just
this
Googled
Chad
it.
Kangaroo.
I wonder how that happened.
Google Chad Kangaroo. Now Google. Let's see. Nimrod definition or meaning. Oh, it says skillful hunter. I thought I've heard it as. Oh wait, yeah. Slang means idiot or jerk. So that's what I mean. I don't know how it went from there.
Yeah, biblically, it's.
I think it just sounds insulting in English.
Yeah,
it just has an insulting kind of sound to it.
It does.
Because Nim rhymes with din, and rod is that's definitely sounds like it could be the element of an insult.
Yeah. Well,
cool. Jason, where you been reading lately?
Well, I read in churches this morning. Other than that, I've been where was I?
Sorry to leave abruptly. I gotta run. See you cats later.
Okay.
Good talking to you, Cal.
Okay, see you, man.
Just seeing you, Cal.
I don't know. Let's see. I've been going through Ezekiel slowly. A little bit of Exodus. I've been kind of hopping all over.
That's cool.
Yeah. Ezekiel's always fun. It's my favorite one.
I have to take some
Yeah.
time
Other
to
than that,
digest Ezekiel.
Proverbs and Ecclesiastes usually. Try to read a Proverbs a day and Ecclesiastes once a week. So.
That's good.
Yeah. What about
That's
you?
good.
What?
What were you gonna say, Trey?
Speak up.
Why once a week?
I don't know. I just it seemed too much to do it every day. I was too lazy to do it every day. I went through a phase where I had songs every day. For
I did that too.
probably at least a month. I think I did that, and then I thought, well, maybe I could do that with Ecclesiastes, but it just seemed like it's a little bit longer. So I didn't want to do it every day. So Song of
Sounds
Songs
like you're
doesn't
just like
actually
making
doesn't.
yourself depressed.
Yeah. Well, with the Ecclesiastes, no, it actually does quite the opposite for me. Because it just like I don't know how to describe it. When I started doing it, the only way I know how to describe it is it has that weird way of. I think it reaches your heart. It kind of bypasses your mind and reaches your heart because it's just the best way I know how to describe it is like it set your mind on things above and not on things of the earth. I think it does that. It has just this wave through it. It's like everything is fleeting, but in life while you're here, but know that everything's gonna die, but still enjoy life. And then it's like, and so it's kind of like goes up and down. So you kind of don't really get, or at least I didn't get depressed reading it. But then it just seemed to like make me focus on more eternal things and what's meaningful. I think it's the most meaningful book in the Bible. I think that's the most meaningful. I'm trying to think of what I was thinking about this the other day. Job is, I don't know, Job is something different. It's I can't remember the right way to describe it. I don't know. But I like Job a lot too. I just don't read that up. Song of Songs was the same way though. When I was reading that every day, it just didn't really register in my mind. I was just, because it's so poetic that you just kind of read it and just, you kind of do that with poetry sometimes. You just let it like do its work without trying to think about it. And that one's like that. That's basically just like the only way I describe that is that's just like the song of creation or something. And it's like, but then when you say that, you're like, well, obviously because it's two people like
Right.
in love. Yeah, so it's like duh. But then when you just go start, you can zoom out and look at it on so many different levels, and you're just like, wow, this is
Right. I had a similar experience reading through Song of Psalms, but I don't know if I've ever had it bypass my heart and go straight to my mind in Ecclesiastes. I think about it too much.
you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think about it
Not
a
really
lot too, because
feel
there's a
book.
lot of that's true. There's some of it like feels almost more like you get. I mean, because it's got some really, I don't know what to say, like just some good proverbs in it. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but just some good, really good statements, and so that are worth thinking about and just meditating over. But yeah, maybe it kind of did that for me though too, because I was reading it so much. So when you kind of get into that habit, you'll just kind of almost get in the flow, and so it's not, you don't do that as
So I know you and I have talked about Ecclesiastes at length before, and I think last time I saw you in person, we went up to a Reliance, and I think we were talking about Ecclesiastes, weren't we?
Probably.
I want you to explain a little bit more what it means to it seems self-evident, but I want you to explain what it means to have your eyes set on things above instead of here, and what that is actually like through the context of Ecclesiastes.
Oh man.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just, it just helps you focus on what's eternal, because you're just like, because everything here is just, it's all vanity. It's all it's all just like a breath with the wind. It's going to pass. And so it makes you think on, or at least for me, it makes me think on what's almost like what your work is too. Just like, what are you going to do then when you realize like this life is just a breath and it's here and gone?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you? How are you going to spend your time? Like, what's actually meaningful in this life to do? What's is it kind of makes you think. Well, money's it kind of keeps you focused in that too. Like, I can't take money with me. I can't take things with me. So what's the
Right.
purpose? It's all just a gift. It's all just a gift to me. So I might as well, work
I
and give it back. Things like
I
that.
don't know if I'm way off base, but what I have, that's kind of what I was looking to see what your response was, because the way that I have thought and or felt and how I think and or feel is totally wrong all the time about a lot of stuff. So I'm always ready to be corrected. But the way I've thought about Ecclesiastes in that way for a long time has been exactly what you said, is if life is a breath here, then in a way that also makes everything here so much more meaningful and valuable,
Yeah.
because it's so
Mhm.
short, right? And so, like, I don't think, for me at least, Ecclesiastes doesn't trend towards nihilism. It trends towards the complete opposite, where
That's what I keep saying.
everything has meaning. Everything is vanity equals everything has meaning, I think, in my mind.
That's what I keep saying. But our friend Mitch might say it differently with Christian nihilism.
Yeah, I know he probably
But,
would.
but actually, I think he'd
But
say,
yeah.
no, it's wrong. You're describing it wrong. But yeah, I'm the same way. I think it makes
Yeah.
it almost more meaningful, and it brings out
I think so.
that, the importance of it. And then, yeah, because there's something in there. I wrote that a long time ago. Like, the futility of life brings forth the sanity of mind. It just like makes you think.
Yeah.
I think it's basically like saying that. What's that one verse in Psalms? Teach me to number my days that I may gain a heart of
Yes.
wisdom. It's like, yeah, when you know your life is limited, it's there's a lot of wisdom in that, and it shows you what's purposeful. There was I think it was Martin Shaw. Who was he talking to one time? I don't know if it's Jonathan Peugeot. It might have been on Girl Country, and he was on there. I don't know. He was in an interview one time, and he said he was talking about just like fairy stories and stuff. And he said there's this idea in, because I don't know where he lives, somewhere in Europe, but he said there's this idea that the fairies gather around like a campfire at night to listen to people's stories, and the reason is because they just find them fascinating because we're here and gone, and so just like the futility of our lives just kind of adds that much more meaning to our stories and everything like that. And there's a weightiness to them that you don't get without. Yeah. Sorry, the wind blew, the door just cracked, and I thought it was a ghost. It's always my first thought, just a ghost.
No, that's
there was
really good. Sorry, Trey.
Go ahead, Trey.
there was a you guys might I'll post it if I can find it. There was a philosophical discussion which brought up this. It was by Capturing Christianity. It was about by Capturing Christianity about what is meaningful, and because it brought up that same point, and I think there was a time in Troy or in the movie Troy where it says like where I think Brad Pitt says the gods wish they were us because we are mortal and we can do things that they cannot, and it's more meaningful because of that. But
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, I like that quote. Nice.
Yeah, I feel like that's the book of Ecclesiastes, man.
Yeah.
I think it has to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have some more meaning questions that I've been thinking of.
Do it. Let's do it.
Please.
Okay. So I think Solomon. So okay, we're in paradise, right? Let's say I learned Spanish in paradise, right? And then I'm able to talk to a friend in Spanish. Then let's say 1,000 years pass, and I meet that friend again, but I've forgotten Spanish, right? Is it equally meaningful? Those both instances, or is the time I could know Spanish more meaningful? Because I guess okay, yeah. So I guess There's an implicit
being-
idea that because something is long, therefore it's going to be meaningful. Like infinity, because life is more meaningful because there's an afterlife, because it's therefore it's longer. But
Yeah.
I guess my point in that scenario is it seems that meaning is tied to how you act in the world, and the importance of your actions versus the length.
I would versus the length of time. Yeah, I would think so.
I don't think time has to do with anything in that regard. If you think about somebody
Anything
who lived
meaning?
I think oftentimes a short life has more meaning than a longer life.
Okay. Wait, John, you a Christian?
Yeah, well,
or
Yes.
Christian?
yeah, it
Okay,
seems like
'cause that's-
there's a weightiness I
You
think
go.
that comes when you recognize how life's so short. Well, my thought went to music. Like you have artists,
Yep.
and it's like they pass away, or if they kill themselves or something, it's like then all of a sudden their music gets really popular and people see the weight of it, and it's like, man, I don't know why. It just, I mean, that maybe that's a bad example. But
But that's meaningful to other people, not the person in question. That's also why like I don't feel like I agree with both sides of the argument, because like I don't know, whenever I hear a Christian philosopher say that like why does it matter if it's all gonna go kaput? Like why does it matter if it's all going to end? And
yeah,
I feel
that's
like I could ask the Christian the same question, right?
yeah, that's a really good question. I think
Like
I think Ecclesiastes. See, that's one Mitch kind of will bring that up. Like, there's a weird way where it dances on the border between everything being meaningless and everything being absolutely meaningful, and it just kind of, because you can it's like you can flip a coin and go either way or something at that point. And it's like, well, if I know I'm gonna die tomorrow and there's no God, what am I gonna do? It's like what am I gonna do? Am I gonna just get mine and go, or am I gonna like at least do something? Like, I don't know. That's a good question to ask, because it would kind of make you confront nihilism if you said the world's gonna end tomorrow, everyone's gonna die, like there's no God, there's no life. What do we do?
no no
Do
no
we
no.
just kill each other?
Well, no, wait. I know that's part of it, but what I want to go deeper is say, like, okay, God exists, right?
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
because God exists and you're a Christian does not make your life innately meaningful, because it does not give you a set of actions to do. Like, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you know which job to take up, doesn't mean you know which path to take up, right? And you can say there's guidance in that, but I would say all the Bible characters, it seems like they're struggling along. It doesn't really seem like they have an innate knowledge of what they need to do.
Yeah.
If that makes
It's
sense.
a good. Yeah, I mean that's good. I never know what I'm supposed to do either.
I think I disagree respectfully, Trey, because
This
what
is why,
Jason said, it's like flipping a coin, and it's like this one thing can be meaningful or it can be meaningless, and I flip the coin, but what happens is regardless of what side of the coin it lands on, that has to spiral to infinity. So like if this one person's life is meaningless, then what that has to mean is everything is meaningless, and then I should just go die, and I'm a nihilist. Or if that person's life is meaningful, right, and like the only other alternative is that everything is meaningful. And
you cut out a bit.
You're fine. I was just saying I've been thinking about this a lot actually lately, because as dumb as it is, the catalyst for me thinking about this was I was at taking photos for a friend's band the other night, and I didn't realize it was like a heavy metal emo concert, and I've never been to one of those before. And it's talking to some people there, and the vibe, people love the sadness and they love nihilism and they love that's just like what characterizes their life is that, right? And so I've spent a lot of time over the last day thinking about how is it that I can find meaning and beauty in life, whereas a lot of people cannot. And I think it's because I am convinced that everything has meaning, and that if you don't see it or understand it, if you don't feel meaning, it's because you don't see it or understand it. It's not that it's not there. I don't think because you don't have a job or a purpose or you don't understand, that doesn't mean that you don't have meaning.
Wait. Okay. If you don't have a job, wait. You cut out a lot of it, but I just want to say, if
I'm
you don't have
sorry.
a job or if you don't have any, like, I feel like there has to be some action in the world for something to be meaningful. Like, because then we would say rocks are innately meaningful. I don't think that would make sense.
But see, I would disagree.
Rock-
I think rocks are meaningful.
Right, but you wouldn't say they were equal in meaning to us, right?
Most people probably wouldn't. I think some
No.
people might, but I think most people wouldn't. Yeah.
But I would say that they're a small piece of what gives the world its character. A tiny little aspect of God's character is in there, you know.
It's an interesting one. I think that like, sorry, I'm Robert, by the way. I think that like where rocks make up part of our existence, they are not equal, given equal meaning, but they still have some meaning. Like I don't think that all meaning should be on a scale, if that makes sense. Because what means something to someone might not mean anything to anyone else. Like, and even if you take the Bible as an example of this, to some people it's nothing, but to some people it's everything. You know what I mean? And the Bible is the word of God, like obviously, right? Like it's legit. But to some people it's not the word of God, and it's a fallacy, and it's a false document, right? It's a like it's a book for false witnesses, essentially, right? It's like it's a false account that
Yeah.
happened, but then to some people it's a completely real account and everything else, right? So I think a friend of mine used to have this thing where they would say, find the golden thread in everything. And what I got from that, it was like, find the golden thread which weaves that thing into the fabric of God, essentially. You know what I mean? And I
That's
found that
really
really
good.
beautiful
Yeah,
because,
that's
like,
really
rather
good.
than
I like
sitting
that.
there, like, rather than sitting there and thinking, okay, so like, I'm a limited being, I have a limited like knowledge. God has all knowledge. God is like infallible. You know what I mean? God is everything essentially, right? So God knows how this weaves into someone's life, right? But like, if you just ask that question and just meditate on that question of where is the golden thread in this, then it allows you temporarily to be inundated, if you will, with that knowledge of its place in the universe. And it might not be for you, the rock might not be for you, but someone
Yeah.
finding that rock one day, they might find it and say, oh, this like they might have a flashback, I don't know, like a subconscious response to something, and it might remind them of a memory they had when they were in a place where they were connected with God. Like that's just one thing, like one small example that I can give of many examples. You know what I mean? But yeah, like God,
Yeah.
like one of my favorite things is like in regards to meaning, like you might say even someone that's a sinner, right, has no meaning or etc whatever, fine. But like one of my favorite things is how like God uses anything, even people that have like sinned quite a lot, to to bring about His will on this earth, right? So
Mm.
yeah, sorry, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
But
Like
yeah,
no,
No,
that's
that's
good.
good.
That's good.
That
That's
was
even
really
thinking
good.
about like you could frame Sodom and Gomorrah that way. We were talking earlier. Went through a little bit of the Book of Judges. I was going through that with somebody, and we brought up Sodom and Gomorrah because you could think, well, they just were destroyed. They're just sinners, so they're gone. It's meaningless. But then God brings them up later in Ezekiel, and it's like, you know, they kind of stand as the signpost for the rest of humanity. Like, and God even says, like, this was their sin. They had pride, fullness of food, and they didn't give to the poor. They just like hoarded it for themselves. And He's like, your sins are worse than they, because you saw that. You know, it should have stood out as a warning to you and should have, gave you direction and meaning in life. And you, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good
It's,
point. I like how you brought up the
also-
thing with. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's why I also love the Book of Job and like Job's story. Like, just I was in the comments just saying like, "Hey, is it alright if I jump on?" But then I figured out how to jump on. So sorry if I'm intruding, by the way.
No,
But like, even if I came on just to say this, like, I would be happy with that. Essentially, like, with how do I say this? In the Book of Job, there's the part where like he gets called to point something out, essentially, right? And it's almost like he becomes complacent with like doing the will of God, right? So it's almost like God expects you to do the thing like all the time, you know, like do it all the time. And like I think John mentioned something about like keeping like there's something he said about keeping something like near you at all times, I think it was. Or
I don't recall. I'm sorry.
yeah, it was something about like remembering at all times about how everything is like transitory and temporary and stuff like that. But your thing of your why God from is like your connection with God and is eternal essentially. So it's almost like for me in that moment where Job like didn't do what he was supposed to do, he forgot about that because he was too blinded by like the fallacies and stuff like of the illusion of the world essentially. So it's almost like that's why I think it's important to always remember like the golden thread exercise, like so to speak, is is super important because like if you can kind of hypothesize this, if Job would have said like in that moment, like all the time we're being tested, you know what I mean? So it's like if Job would have said, "Where is the golden thread in that moment?" He wouldn't have had to go through what he went through, you know. And it was almost like all the stuff that he had around him, like everything in his world, like his children, so on and so forth, everything else that he lost, he got them back because he realized like how meaningful it was, you know. So it's kind of God was like, look, I'm going to strip away everything because you're not appreciating this. Like I've given you everything, and you just kind of was like, yeah, well, you know, I've got my blessings, whatever, right? So I'm going to take everything away from you so I can get straight back to the root point of like this is this now. Like now you deal with everything without that, like without my grace, without everything else. Now I'm gonna see who you really are. And then when Joe basically starts to rebuild his life back up and etc., then he gets everything back. And like I can probably attest to like a lot of people in my life, including myself, when I've become complacent, you know what I mean? Because we all fail. When I've taken things for granted and God's like, boom, see you later, they're gone. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then that's when we get into prayer and that's when we start asking about such things, and then we get them back essentially. But it's just really important, I think. To there's actually a metal band called the Devil Wears Prada, and they have a song and it says I think the song's called Sassafras, and it says like the lyric is like keep this on your eyes, keep this within your eyelids or something, and yeah, essentially like yeah. So it's just about obviously your connection with God. So, but yeah.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Like what you like at the end of Job, he says, "What I've heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you," or something like that. Like
Yeah.
finding the golden thread again, or something. Yeah, yeah. I like what you said too earlier about like you can't when you're looking at the meaning of things, you can't really kind of just take one thing at a time and necessarily put it in like weigh it on the scales or say this has this much meaning and this much meaning. Like you said, it's different each person. Like you could find a rock that you think is just kind of worthless, and then you could go throw it in the trash, and someone could have been like the rock their mom gave them or something like that. You know, you don't know what it means to them, things like that. You know? Yeah.
I have a lot. I have a lot of thoughts, and my problem is I never have the words to describe it.
Oh my gosh! You
appropriately.
need to talk to Cal so he can.
I know,
sort
I
it
know,
out with his
man.
speech
That's
therapy.
my problem. I know. I need some speech.
Or
All right.
English.
I guess my first thought, Robert, I agree with and really appreciate everything that you said. I really do, because I think intuitively, I very deeply believe in what you said. When it comes to a golden thread, I have found that in my life, I think if I were to exercise looking for a golden thread, maybe sometimes I find a golden thread and I find God. Maybe sometimes I attribute things to God that I shouldn't be. Do you think that there's a danger in that?
Yes, absolutely. And like having the background that I'm in, I don't know if Jason told you about me or whatever, but like you get a lot of people that basically say like, oh, I saw this thing or whatever it was, like,
Right.
oh, it's a spiritual experience. Like so when Jason said, oh, the door went, I immediately thought it was a ghost, right? So people are
Right.
automatically jumping into assumptions that like the thing is of supernatural origin, right? And then it can create this entire path for them to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they live that narrative out, where it's so easy when you just ask that question about the golden thread. You know what I mean? Like you just ask that question like, straight away, and then you know what the answer is because it's like bam. Then you don't have to sit there and sort of bandy around on theory and so on and so forth because it's just done. Like you just like bam,
Right.
there's the answer, it's done. And there's a really good exercise what you can do, where you basically like you go through your past as well, and you think like you go through every situation where you thought it might have been right, and you ask, and if the golden thread's there, then you're good. If the golden thread's not there, then you have to ask like, okay, so what actually caused that to happen? And then where you start to see where God isn't, you start to see where God is. And what's really interesting is that like with the golden thread, like yeah, there might be a golden thread in something, but it doesn't like I think there's a golden thread in everything, but like that golden thread might not be weaved to your path with God. Because you could go around thinking, yeah, there's a golden thread and everything's fine, it weaves into the fabric of this or whatever. And because you've seen that golden thread, you might think, well, because I've witnessed it, it's linked to me now. That's not always the case. That's why, like, if you're in a relationship with someone and you say, like, where's their golden thread, right? And then if that golden thread, like, you might get like get shown something, you might have like revelation about something or whatever. You might see that that golden thread is actually linked to someone else, right? And you could do so with like a job, with everything. And like, if you're looking for your purpose, you can say, okay, so I'm working this job, doing this or whatever, like your career path. And you say, okay, but like, did I weave my thread into
Yeah.
something artificial? Because there's like you have a
Right.
golden thread, right? But you can like the reason why I think that you should do something like when you say like not my will but yours, right? Is because when you say not my will but yours, that allows your thread to be threaded where it needs to be, which can lead to things like falling away from your life and everything else, which sucks. Everyone's been through it, but at the same time it falls away from you so you can be weaved into what you need to be weaved into, you know?
Yeah, I do. It sounds like to me that kind of what you're describing it would be what I would probably coin trying to be very attentive to the work of God through the Holy Spirit in my life. That's probably what I would call that.
Yeah.
But that sounds very much like I think what jumps into my mind as the golden thread. And we probably have a misalignment of definitions here. Is
Yeah.
is
Maybe.
is something that like I don't even have to seek out, but is given to me most of the time retroactively. So or like in ways that I don't even understand. So it's funny that he said rock because I actually do have this is so dumb, but it's true. I do have a very small rock that was given to me by somebody, and it feels very special to me. And there's a lot of meaning there. And I know there's a little
Me?
golden thread attached to it. Huh?
Was it me? Did I give you this?
I
rock?
actually do have one of the ones from Alliance still. It's very special.
Okay, yeah.
It's yeah.
Okay, but this is not that rock.
No,
This one
no,
isn't
not the
as
one I'm thinking
meaningful.
of. But
Okay.
or you have an experience and it seems benign in the moment, and then a year or two later you realize it was one of the most impactful things you've ever experienced. And it seems like to me that golden thread is almost something that's given by grace to you, right? Like the glimpses that you see of it weaving everything, that's like those are the best points in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, where it feels
So-
more
Yeah,
like
but
a gift rather than you.
I think that like where you said like they were most given to you, so you don't have to like seek them out, right?
Yeah.
So like I would say asking you shall receive, right? Because like those moments in your life, like what I found with God especially is that like the more I seeked, the more I asked him, whereas a golden friend is, I have more of those experiences.
Right.
So like it was less, and I think there's like a thing, like I'm not gonna say it's wrong. I'm not gonna say that like I'm super Christian and everyone else is rubbish. I'm not saying that at all, but like I think that like when you ask more, you have more of those experiences. But like I think that people don't ask. Like people forget to ask God sometimes. You know, they sit there and they wait. Like Jason, I watched your interview with Merrily, which was awesome, by the way. Like I loved every minute of it. It was
Like
like when you
she's
said about like, oh, sorry, please, please.
no, you go ahead. Sorry, I just said thank you.
When
Yeah.
that's all right. When you said about like you'll get like contact from the spirit or whatever, like you have a spiritual experience, like you'll wait because you won't be able to piece it together at the moment. You'll wait and see if it makes sense later on. By asking the golden thread comment, like the golden thread thing, you can weave it together much faster, which means you can step with that. You know what I mean? And this for me, the golden thread thing, like you can do it with loads of stuff. You don't have to do it with the golden thread. You can just ask like God, what's your plan with this, right? Or whatever. And you get it. Because he does. That's what he says. He says, not at the moment. I'll tell you later on, right?
Yeah.
But like the more you do that, the more you step in, like the more you walk with God. And God's not like because how many times like in your life has like there been an issue and like it would have been fixed so much quicker if you just said like God, like you come in, like tell me what's going on here. You know what I mean? Rather than sitting there in like anguish or anxiety or turmoil. God doesn't want us to feel that. You know what I mean? God would much
Yeah.
rather say, ask me what's going on and I'll tell you, you know? So yeah, it's for me it's just a device in order to like get back to equilibrium and get back to walking with God like that much quicker because like as previously mentioned, like everything in the world being like temporary and stuff like that, like it's very easy to get caught up in that, you know? So like the quicker you can get back into the flow of things, like it's so much easier. But you have to be honest with yourself, you know, like that's why like I think like praying every day is super important because it feels like a discipline in us. You know what I mean? A discipline that we have to follow. So like even if we don't necessarily trust ourselves that day, like that discipline's there as a crutch. It's not a crutch, like it's there as an entire support system. That's why I love Psalm 23. Like Psalm 23 is like important, like it's so important. But like I've done quite a lot of studies into the Psalms as well, and like even praying the Psalms and for specific things, and like the Psalm 23, like when you break it down, I think is fundamental to our life, like our waking life. Like it's got everything in there. It's got a support system. It's like God laid me down in green pastures. Well, if you're struggling with finances, you say God laid me down in green pastures, right? So like God's laying me down in the place that I will accumulate the wealth that I need. Like you break it down, you break everything down, so you're good. And you can do the same with the Lord's Prayer. You can do the same with like everything, man. But like you have to, like for me, it's the act of it's weaponizing prayer against the illusion of reality. That's the best way I can put it. And that's Jason Momoa was talking about like Christian mysticism and stuff before. Like, I think that it allows us to not just like repeat prayer, you know, like robot, like parrot prayer, and stuff like that. It allows us to actually use prayer as a device in order to bring us in line with God. And that's why such techniques as the golden thread is like another thing you can use. So you understand it, you know, well, not understand it, but like, so yeah, it vibes with you a lot better.
Yeah, I like that a bunch. I like how you said weaponizing prayer against the illusion of reality. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's what I like how you phrase that. Like I could see some like maybe some people would say like reality is not an illusion or something. Which I mean I don't think that's how you meant it at all. I think it's kind of like gets back to the Ecclesiastes.
I mean,
it's just like there is a
yeah.
fleetingness to reality, and when you use prayer in that way as like almost a weapon, it cuts cuts through this world of shadows we live in, and you see the true thing behind the eternal stuff. Yeah, that's really good. I also like something you said earlier too. You said when you were talking, I mean, I really like the idea of the golden thread. Following that, I'm actually finding that quite convicting. Thinking about it, because even thinking like living like right now, I'm at home with my parents, and I kind of want to get on the road and go somewhere, but I'm like, I could just be at home thinking, what's the golden thread here, and then just enjoying every moment and finding like just there's like go sit down at the dinner table with them, and it's like, and the dinner table is just like, the table's made of gold all of a sudden, like you said, because I'm just following the golden thread. And I like how you said like almost like walking with it, like walking with God, like you're not really it's like you're doing it and you're following it to your best ability, but at the same time saying thy will be done, and looking for the, almost in a way, just being thankful and grateful. It just that's really good, man.
It's really interesting because like in what some people would call magic and stuff like that, is like you don't need it. And this is what I always try and teach people when they come to me and they say, oh, teach me magic. I'm like, you don't need it, man. Like you just need like just sort your relationship out with God. That's it. Like just like it's really interesting. It's like it's in the Bible it says basically like don't practice magic, don't do this, don't do that, whatever. Like don't do divination and everything else. It's because the lead up to it is like and the parts after it is like you don't need it. You know what I mean? But like what I try and like say is that like fine, like if people were in that environment, right, and that's the way they see the world, okay, then how do you get them back to God, right? And you have to talk the language of the people. You know what I mean? You have to talk the terminology and stuff they understand. And like this is what I was saying in regards to like working with saints or whatever. Like when you work with saints, when you build up a relationship with saints, when you ask saints to pray for you and intercede for you, essentially what it does is like eventually that saint is like, yo, so I interceded for you, like I prayed to God for you, God gave you all the stuff. How long is it until you realize that like God's here, like God's real? If you're asking me to intercede for God with you and God's getting this stuff, and like you're not a Christian, you're in like you're fully like knee deep in your cult, right? How long is it until you realize that God's real? Right? And then it's this like massive aha moment, and then they go, okay, yeah, fine, cool, I'm down with this. Like God's real, Jesus is real, Mary's real, all the saints are real, and everything else. And that's why I love working with saints. Like a lot of the stuff that I said on this, like I wish I would have said in that like episode that I did with you, man. But yeah, it's like people have like when like you ask for the word magic in like a Christian like environment, like you normally get like quite a lot of adverse reactions to it. But I think like given the proper time to like explain to people, etc., then open-minded people might say, oh, hang on a minute, you know what I mean? Like if you look at every sinner in the world, right? Every sinner in the world, like that doesn't believe in God, like atheists, everything, like people that just completely shun the nature of God, right? God meets them where they're at. If God come up to you, look what they did to Jesus. Jesus was like, I'm the Messiah, right? I'm here. I'm the Son of God. They killed him because they didn't believe in him, right? So if God comes up to you and says, hey, I'm God, or like God meets you where you're at and says, hey, I'm God. I'd like to come into your life. I'd like to come into your heart. I'd like to change everything around. All good. Then the majority of people are just gonna say, yeah, whatever, man. Go away. You know what I mean? Like, you're not real. You're a phony. You're a big fat phony. Yeah, and then and then it's like it becomes incredibly hard to convince someone like that. So God will talk your language. He'll worm his way into your life. You know what I mean? He'll become friends with you, whatever, like through people, through experiences, through golden threads, right? And then eventually, bam, he's there. You're there. You're praying every day. You're giving credence to the Creator and everything else. It's good.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
God, like I was talking to one of the guys on the group, Matthew, I think his name was, and I said that God is like God smuggles himself into places, like, but he does it. He's so intelligent with it. He's so intelligent. It's like perfect, and he's always at the right time. He'll jump out and go, "Pow! I'm here," and then like, "Whoa! Where did you come from?" You know what I mean? And then it's just this like mad, like you look back at the entire thing. As John was saying, like you look back at like the times when that you realize the golden thread or whatever, and you look back and you see like every step God has taken to get to that point,
Yeah.
and you realize that none of it is insignificant because every part of it was like signposted. And yeah, it's like a sat nav, right? You go like going towards God, beep beep, diversion when we make a sin, and then it redirects, and then eventually that sat nav will always lead to God. But we decide like how long it takes to get there. Hence why like when that's what I was going to get at, like when we use the golden thread terminology, that makes our route shorter to get to God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like that terminology a lot. That's really good.
I do too.
Yeah. It's
Jason, I don't know what you think about this, but as Robert was talking, I was the entire time I was thinking it feels like a lot of George MacDonald stories are written about characters that follow a golden thread.
yeah. When he was talking, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Golden Key. When they're just because they're seeking that the whole time, right? They're kind of following a golden thread because
They are.
I mean, there's not a thread before them, but they're following she follows that fish though for a while, the errant, and she's like she doesn't realize she's been following it the whole time, like that silver fish or something. But they're trying to find the land from where the shadows fall. So they're trying to find they're walking through the land of shadows, which would be this world. Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evils. But they're walking through that
with like shadows casted from above that they can't make out, but they can feel and they can kind of understand. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's also part of like the golden thread.
Yeah. They're looking for that. Yeah, the eternal. Yeah, through this land of shadows. Yeah, I was thinking that. I mean, Fantasties feels kind of like that too. I think Fantasties is such a relatable book too, especially for people that don't have a whole lot of direction either, because he's kind of aimlessly wandering. He's not even really looking for a golden thread though. He's just kind of like, I felt I should go left, so I went right.
but don't you agree that George MacDonald writes it in a way such that it's like, I forget what is even the name, guy's name. Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
A notice?
Do you have a name? Yeah. Doesn't it even read like he thinks he's wandering aimlessly, but in reality he's following this golden thread? George MacDonald writes like that all the time.
Yeah. In the story,
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a really interesting thing. When we got into the chat the other day about like superheroes and stuff like that, there was a guy, Christian, who made a video about Batman, right? So like, it's really interesting is that like, if you think about Batman, or like in terms of superheroes, like or whatever, right? So Batman is like a man he's just a man. He doesn't have any super powers or anything like that, right? But he does the right thing, even though he doesn't have a connection with God, right? So it's like even though he is in that shadow, Gotham City, which is like a cesspit, there's like crime everywhere, he still does the right thing, even though he doesn't know God. So he accesses the part of God that is in himself. He accesses his own golden thread and does what he thinks he should be doing, right? So it's like, it's a thing of like, even if we're living in a land of shadow and we're aimlessly doing stuff, we don't know until we ask if we're actually following our path. You know what I mean? So like, you could think that like you're this like terrible person, like you could be racked with anxiety, depression, all this stuff, right? Fine, that's bad, and like my heart goes out to you if you're going through those things. But like the thing is, it's like we still don't know if we're doing God's path, like God's work, but we might be. And then like when you actually look at Batman and stuff like that, like I don't really follow superheroes to be honest with you, but like if you look at the way he reacts Superman or whatever, like if Superman represents like the purest form of humanity, like him and Superman have got some pretty similar traits, man. They're like if Batman was born on Krypton, then he would have Superman's powers and he would still be fighting justice and still be sorting stuff out, just the same way Superman is. Whereas Superman was born into his role, whereas Batman's like existence was artificially created, but it still hit that part in him, which was that innate trait of wanting to bring justice and wanting to bring peace, and like cleaning out Gotham City, as in bringing purity to his environment, which is his internal environment as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. You say something, John?
No, I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You should
it's
finish
good.
your thought about Fantastes.
What were we saying about it? Him following the. I don't know. I don't know what I was saying about it.
You said it.
I don't
He was
remember
wandering aimlessly, and I said George MacDonald writes a lot.
Oh.
Like, yeah.
Like, yeah. The thing I was gonna say was that there's it's when I was writing the story I wrote too. There's a part where it's a few parts I think, but there's one part. Well, one character specifically that's following a silver thread the whole time. I like the idea of the golden thread though, because the golden thread, I mean, the different, like, I mean, you're probably familiar with that. Probably all three of us are. The different colors have different meanings to them. And golden just kind of makes you think of like, the sun or God, or more like more pure light, I guess. Silver usually makes me think of more like imaginal stuff like that. But I mean, not to say one's like better than the other, but you do kind of follow a thread in your life. I think whether you maybe realize it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but
in esoteric like backgrounds or whatever, the silver thread is the thread that connects us to our astral body. And our astral body is symbolic of the astral realm, right? So where stuff happens in the imagination, that's why we're going to say when we dream, the majority of the time we're going to the astral realm. So like, yeah, you can follow the silver thread, which is like the feelings, all the impulses and everything else in the dreams. But then the golden thread, yeah, absolutely, man, it's 100% better because it's the pure light, right? In like Kabbalistic thought, we have Malkuth, which is the earth, then Yesod, which is the moon. And the moon is like the lunar influences, which is the silver light, right? So when we talk about the silver light of the earth, the majority of the stuff on the earth is illusionary. Like, it's because the light is shining through the moon in Kabbalistic thing anyway, because directly above it you have Tiphareth, which represents the sun. So that's where Christ is, right? So yeah, like Yesod is like it's really interesting, like by like chanting the names in Hebrew. Like there's like Shaddai El Kai, which is essentially like it linked with Yesod, and then you had like Yod He Vav He, Eloah Vidath, which is connected with Tiphareth, right? So like that is intrinsically linked to the energy of Christ, which is like it's super interesting. Like when you just sit there and just like yeah, just do it. Like you can do it as an exercise, or you can just say like, show me the silver thread, show me the golden thread. Like it works just the same because like even though that you might not know the correspondences or whatever, like we are like if I don't know how like superimposed over our body, like we have those things in us already. That's why when you have the Sacred Heart, like with Jesus, like the Sacred Heart of Jesus, that is Tiphareth because it links to the heart center. So yeah, it's super interesting, man.
Sorry, I was just as you were talking, I was trying to find where the psalm was. I didn't know which. I was googling the verse. It's a verse as we were talking about, the silver and the golden thread. I'm gonna look it up in my Bible real quick. Psalm 68, verse 13. It says, "Though you lie down among the sheepfolds, you will be like the wings of a dove covered with silver, and her feathers with yellow gold."
Wow.
It just made me think of that. I love that line. It's just such beautiful. That's what I mean. It's just so pretty imagery too. A dove with wings of silver, covered and feathers covered with yellow gold.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dove is
Is it cutting?
oh man,
I think it's glitching up. Is it glitching? Is it just me, or is it glitching
I'll
for
tell
you
you
too,
some
Joe?
really interesting thing here, right? So I think it's interesting. Please feel free to shoot down my dove if thou wishes. Um, the sorry,
No, you're fine.
switch my
I
camera back
think
on.
it's glitching up a little bit.
No, yeah, it's probably where I switched my camera back on and my thing was recalibrating. But
Oh, okay.
basically, it's really interesting. So I was with a client, right, and I was like looking at them, like, and basically what I could see is that where they have been praying a lot, like there was a dove, like superimposed over their chest, right? It was mad. And then I said to them, I was like, look, like basically pray, like when you pray, that dove comes out of you and goes to wherever it needs to go. And that's why I was talking about Psalm 55:11, where it's like, so shall I send my word out to do that which I accomplish, etc., etc., etc. Right?
Yeah.
I kind of mangled up the stuff there, but yeah, like the point is there. And basically, when we pray, we send that dove out to do whatever we need to do. But if the reason for prayer and the want like isn't pure, that dove won't fly. You know. So like when you were talking about like the wings of silver and is it the feathers of gold? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like that has to be pure. You know what I mean? It has to be pure in order for it to go out and do what it wants or what it needs to do or you want it to do. Otherwise it can't fly. Because what I actually envision it as like the wings are made of lead, like if it doesn't fly, you know, and if you start looking at like alchemical symbolism, we transmute lead to gold, right? So it's like until we can purify our intent about what we want to pray for, then like it's going to be flying with wings of lead essentially. So yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I was trying to find this when you were talking about someone's prayer being like a dove. And John mentioned that author George MacDonald. He's got like I'm trying to find where it is. It's in his book Lilith, and he talks about. Oh wait, I think this is it. I could read this. Let's see. Let's see. No, they have. Let's see. They need help from each other. I don't know where to start. I'm trying to find where to start with it real quick. Let's see.
Where are you, Jason?
I'm in chapter 5, the old church. You see a hawthorn. Let's see. I think this is where it talks about it. I was going to tell him I wanted it turned into a wilderness of rose trees, and that the plow might never come within 3 yards of it. Listen, said the raven, seeming to hold his breath. I listened and I heard. Was it the sighing of far-off musical wind, or the ghost of a music that had once been glad, or did I indeed hear anything? There they go there still, said the raven. Who goes there, and where do they go? I asked. Some of the people who used to pray there go to the ruins still, he replied, but they will not go much longer, I think. What makes them go now? They need help from each other to get their thinking done and their feelings hatched, so they talk and sing together. Then, they say, the big thought floats out of their hearts like a great ship out of the river at high water. Do they pray as well as sing? No, they have found that each can best pray in his own silent heart. Some people are always at their prayers. Look, there goes one. He pointed right up into the air. A snow-white pigeon was mounting, with quick and yet quicker wing flap, and the unseen spiral of ethereal stare. The sunshine flashed quivering from its wings. I see a pigeon, I said. Of course you see a pigeon, rejoined the raven, for there is the pigeon. I see a prayer on its way. I wonder Now, what heart is that dove's mother? Someone may have come awake in my cemetery. How can a pigeon be a prayer? I said. I understand, of course, how it should be a fit symbol or likeness for one, but a live pigeon to come out of a heart? It must puzzle you. It cannot fail to do so. A prayer is a thought, a thing spiritual, I pursued. Very true, but if you understood any besides your own, you would understand your own much better. When a heart is really alive, then it is able to think live things. There is one heart, all whose thoughts are strong, happy creatures, and whose very dreams are lives. When some pray, they lift heavy thoughts from the ground only to drop them on it again. Others send up their prayers in living shapes, this or that, the nearest likeness of each. All live things were thoughts to begin with, and are fit therefore to be used by those that think. One says to the great thinker, here is one of thy thoughts. I am thinking it now. That is a prayer, a word to the big heart from one of its own little hearts. Look, there is another. This time the raven pointed his beak downward to something on a block of granite, and I saw a little flower. So that's basically it. It's like saying there's a prayer as a flower. And
Where was that from? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
What was that from?
Oh, it's from this author George MacDonald. His book called Lilith. It's you'd probably love it, man. You'd probably understand it better than I could too. It's a trip. It's basically like it's like his book Fantastes is set in fairyland, but his book Lilith is just set in the spirit world, and so it's just like it's probably one of the most profound theological works I've ever written, but it's all in like a story form, and it's all just it's a trip because you'll have two things that will like be two different things, but they're the same thing at once, because it's just that's how kind of reality works, but you don't really understand that when you're first reading it until it starts to come together.
But that's basically like what I would say like this stuff is anyway. Like I got shown this thing. I've had like quite a lot of like revelation dreams, basically. Yeah, dreams. Let's just say dreams. And essentially like I got shown like how it works, like how reality and stuff works, and it's like it's really interesting to hear that and to base it like and to sort of place it side by side with what I already know, because it's so legit. I cannot put it into words how legit it is. It's like it's legit. Like, how do you like yeah, I don't know. I don't have the vocabulary at the moment to do this, but yeah, it's so good. It's unreal.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah, George MacDonald he's a master at that too. Like just trying to find having the right language for it. Some of his stuff is really, it's almost like cumbersome to read too, though, because he's like, you're trying. Yeah, it's hard to put that stuff in the language, but he's a good author. He's dead now, but yeah, whatever.
All the good ones are.
He's going back to life. It's coming back to life again, resurrected. G-Mac from the grave.
I don't know about that, man. That sounds a little heretical.
Actually, do you know what? Like, I'll get onto it now. You're going to talk about like in the necromancy, but that's a perfect segue into it. There's like going back into the entire thing about like sort of in the Bible where it says don't do this and don't do that. Like, I don't see that as a bad thing. That like it says like don't do this, don't do sorcery, don't do divination, don't do necromancy and stuff like that, right? Because like what you had and what you have nowadays is actually like a whole bunch of people like messing with the occult when they don't know the forces that they're messing with, and basically like what they're essentially doing like by doing that is going against like God's law essentially, right? But like what you essentially have is like how do I say this? God does that stuff essentially, but in pure form. Like he would like use like he would make an apparition appear of like someone to deliver a message that would bring someone back on their path to holiness and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he will make miracles happen that some people consider spells and some people consider magic, not because like it's magic or because it's spells, but because it's what needs to happen at that time. You know, And that's why, like, when people say, "Oh, who's your favorite magician?" or "Who's your favorite occult practitioner?" I say Jesus every single time, and they're like, What do you mean?" I was like, "He's the best magician that ever lived." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, like if you like discount the infant gospels and stuff like that, actually no, actually include the infant gospels. Like I know some people like view them as like non-canonical and stuff like that, but if you actually take them into the account, like Jesus, when he was younger, obviously he had the power that he's always had, but he used it in a way which was unethical and irresponsible. You know, I don't know if you ever someone into victory and stuff like that, like, quite interesting, and like letting people die and then bringing them back to life temporarily. Just yeah, story. You know, like,
I feel like I'm missing a bunch of good stuff. It's glitching up.
Yeah,
yeah,
Robert,
oh,
you're
no,
cutting
sorry.
out real bad.
Oh no, oh no.
Okay, yeah, I think you're good now.
Yeah, so basically, there's like
We jinxed it.
Dang it. Come
Maybe
back,
he's not
Robert.
supposed
infant
to
gospel
say
of
what
Jesus,
he's
right?
saying.
Oh wait, he said Brathos again.
I'm
So
back.
we're back. I think you're cutting in and out. Yeah, I think you might be back now.
I am here. Yeah, I think
Okay.
maybe. So basically, in
Yeah.
the infant gospel of Jesus, he's like jumping over roofs with his friend, and one of the children that he's jumping with falls through this roof and like dies, right? And the parents like blame Jesus. They say, "Jesus, like you killed our son. Like, oh, you're a terrible person, whatever." So Jesus goes into the thing, resurrects the boy, just so the boy can tell the parents that he didn't actually kill, like Jesus didn't kill him, and it was his own fault because he fell through a roof and died, and then basically like clicked his fingers and let the boy die again. It's so brutal, but
Oh my
like
gosh.
that's what I was
What
saying.
is-
Like, yeah.
What is that?
What is this from?
It's the infant gospels of Jesus. It's like
The
a
Which is
infant
non-canonical
what?
gospel?
Yeah, it's just look up
That's
the infant
fun.
gospel of Jesus. Like it's really interesting. But
I'm
basically, if
doing
you
it.
look at the infant gospel of Jesus and you take it like allegorically, as in like using God's law and God's powers and stuff in an irresponsible way, basically like how it ends is like Jesus, like Joseph says to Jesus, like you can't use your powers for this stuff. Like and he basically makes Jesus like undo everything that he's done and basically bring the town back to peace. Right? It's super. It's really cool. Even if you look at it
Interesting.
allegorically in regards to like using our powers or using like our God given powers and
That's
stuff or
really.
whatever. Yeah, like
It reminds me.
particularly. Sorry.
Guys, I gotta jump in here
Oh,
real
no,
quick. I have to go to bed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
very lame. I'm getting very
I can
sleepy.
probably head out too. I was just gonna say that kind of reminds me of some of the Hindu stories too. Like I think Hanuman, it's kind of there's a similar thing where he's got all these powers and he's just like using them for fun, and they have to be like, no,
Yeah.
like stop it, you can't.
Yeah.
But
It's basically yeah. So even if you look at it like in regards to whatever, like going back to my point about using like sorcery and stuff irresponsibly, it's like the infant gospel of Jesus is basically like how to look at it and go, yeah, fair enough. Like I messed around with some magic. I was an idiot. Now I'm going to use it for good. You know what I mean?
oh
And then
wow,
you look at
yeah,
how Jesus uses it in the later things of like healing people and casting out demons and whole stuff like that. Like
yeah,
yeah. And then he basically grows up. You know what I mean? And becomes the well, not becomes the Messiah, but he steps into his role. You know?
yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
pretty
definitely gonna have to check that out. That sounds like a trip.
cool.
That sounds fun. Yeah,
It's
but
really interesting. Like when we was on that group, like that's what I was gonna actually like start talking to about. But like I was like, nah, I'm just gonna like I'll bounce. So like because it wasn't. I don't think there was any real point of getting into it. But like yeah, it's cool. It's definitely cool, man. I definitely
yeah,
recommend it. Yeah, it's super nice.
that sounds fun. Yeah. All right, man. Well, I guess by the end of this year, I probably gotta hop off too. I've been on here for almost 2 hours, so and plus it's
Yeah,
starting to
no
rain
problem.
on me a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
it's
for hopping
raining
on though,
here,
dude.
right?
That was so cool. No, I'm really glad you hopped on. I wasn't I saw someone in the comment that I didn't know that was you, and when you popped in, I was like, oh heck yeah. So yeah, glad you got a chance to
Yeah,
hop on here and hang out. Yeah. Anytime too, if you see me, I
absolutely.
don't know if I do these live streams, but you know, usually if every once in a while I'll just start one and see who joins in. But yeah, thanks for doing
no
it, man.
problem. If you
All right,
if
well,
you want to talk about like if you ever want to talk about anything more like in regards to like Bible stuff, whatever, like on streams or whatever, like on videos or whatever, definitely up for it, man. Definitely up for it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the Bible's
yeah,
my
cool.
favorite thing in the world. So yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, man. That sounds great. All right. Well, have a good night, man. Thanks again. It was great talking to you.
You
So.
too. Cool, man. Thank you. I'll see you in a bit.